Okay, hi, my name is Jim Migdoll. This is October 25th, 2017, and we are at Avatar's Abode, Keel Mountain, Australia. We're going to give you what I hope is a very interesting tour of our archives here at Avatar's Abode. Now, to introduce the cast of characters, I'm Jim. This is Geoffrey. Geoffrey, Shakespearean scholar, librarian extraordinaire, and part-time archivist. Great bloke. Now, we have two cameo appearances. The first one is the brains behind the operation. I couldn't have done what I've done with this archival collection without my wife, the brains behind the operation. And well, go ahead, catch her over there. Is that a good shot?
Yeah.
Okay, then back to me here. Wait, don't introduce him yet. Okay, this is, we're going into the second archives room, what's called the reception archive room. Okay, come on in. So right now this room is in a state of flux, preparing for more incoming archival material. Yeah, so the bins are mostly full of stuff that needs to be recorded, rehoused, and also a huge vinyl record collection of Francis Brabazon's. By the way, Francis Brabazon it's sort of like Bob is up here, and Francis is sort of rising to, you know, he is so much a part of this property and the history. In fact, David Bowling, that's pretty much what he's focused on. We'll talk about that later as we now proceed into the library. So Geoffrey can tell us stuff about what he's done in the library.
Okay, thanks, Jim.
Okay, now it's your thing.
Right, yes.
But you got your clipboard.
Oh, yeah. Now, the idea of the library is that it is here to carry on Francis Brabazon's work. Francis had the vision of uniting Barber's message with the best of civilization, traditional religions, and also Western civilization. And he inherited a library from Baron von Frankenberg, and this library has since grown, partly through Francis, and then since Francis's death, the library has gradually accumulated more and more books in the great traditions of spirituality and also in civilization itself. Now, it starts off over here with books by Barber and books about Barber, which you can see is already occupying 3 bays of the library. And then we come round further and we get to several bays dealing with India. Tantric, Vedanta, Indian Buddhism, Indian saints, Indian literature. And then further on, we come to Far Eastern Buddhism and other religions from China and from Japan. A couple of vacant shelves there because everything has to be moved down to fit more books in there. And then over here we have more Japanese stuff, and then further on the collection of books largely on Christianity, and also moving on to philosophy in the ancient world. Francis was a great admirer of ancient epics, those of Homer in particular, and also of ancient philosophers like Plato. Then we have a section of general literature and literature from various countries, which occupy the next couple of bays, and then we move on to a collection of books on music. Francis was passionate about the place of music in spirituality. And then we come around to here to this whole bay is recent acquisitions. We've been bequeathed money to buy new books, and we've made the most of it by buying all those books there. And then round to here we've got Zoroaster and Inayat Khan, and then Islam. You can see it's all a bit higgledy-piggledy, but there are an enormous number of books that are worth reading and which carry on the treasures of the past for contemporary people. Australian literature and nature, and we come over here to books on science, books on word usage, all sorts of miscellaneous things on dancing and theatre, and then comparative religion over there. So you can see there's a wide range of topics, the sort of topics that just aren't covered by ordinary libraries much anymore. And the library doesn't get used a great deal. Many Baba lovers just read Baba books, but it's there for posterity. And I guess this whole program is designed to have a word with posterity and to say, here it is, here's what we're passing on. I hope you appreciate it.
Okay, carrying on now to the archives proper, the Holy of Holies. What we're going to make last 700 years. Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. Here are some of the, removed shoes, of course. When I came back and sort of rescued the archives, people were coming in with their shoes on. Well, we stopped that. Never be closed whenever possible. This is the list of people who have access to the archives. So, Geoffrey, you want to come in and play devil's advocate or hang around? Okay, so this also is climate control. There's the air con up there, the dehumidifier over there, and this is how we see what we're up to. We're up to 49 degrees humidity and 22, it's pretty perfect actually, 22 degrees and 49, yeah. So contained within these cabinets, you want to shut the door, I think? Contained within these cabinets is one of the largest collection of books by and about Meher Baba in the world, with a lot of various treasures and cool decorations. Look what I found the other day. Isn't that sweet? I keep finding all these things to decorate. Look, this one here, point around here. There's the original drawing for The Wind and the Word by Francis Brabazon, and it's by Patricia Saunders. Wonderful artist. This is all Francis Brabazon here, and I think it might not be complete. I think Ross Keating, he's the man. I'm sure he probably has everything. This might be everything. I don't know. What are these? Stay with Gods. They are both signed by the Avatar. There you go. Apparently, Baba did sign a fair few Stay with Gods. As far as I know, there are 4 on this property. Here's the second one. This one might have some provenance. Joanna, here's a copy of the book, Toward the Completion of Which You Lovingly Helped. That's Joanna Bruford. May His Love Grow, and so on and so forth, signed by Francis. So there's Joanna Bruford. Yeah, second signed Stay with God. So that's pretty cool. Now, I have classified the books according to a makeshift, made-up, over the years, way to catalog the books. You've got source books here, directly the word from Baba. A few of them carry down here. Anthologies, Eastern Male Lovers, and then you've got Eastern Male, a small section. Now the thing about the small sections is really interesting. If you take every publication that you can't read, well, this is an exception. Okay, that's wrong. But if you can't read it or it's too skinny to see what it is, you just put it in these alphabetized compartments. And that way you don't have big stuff smushing little stuff. Here's Balkachuri, Eastern female. Eastern female lovers, it's called. And somebody said, well, why do you have Babajan down there? And I said, I don't know, I just like it. And we have Babajan also. God, this cameraman, he's going to have a hard time. Back up, back up. Look at Geoffrey, he's getting squished. Baba's Masters, so she's in there too. Interesting thing about this section, Baba's Masters, I decided to cut it off at the 5 rather than go into the Inayat Khan line and all that. Just those 5, his 5. An interesting thing of splitting it up this way is that we ended up with a whole lot that we called supplementary because they didn't fit. And Eastern male lovers, Western female lovers, and so on and so forth. So this is supplementary, but there's like 5 parts to it. East-West lovers. Here you got Spiritual Choices. Dick Anthony was in that. There's Pete Townsend's biography. So they're supplementary works. Then down here, you got it broken up into Baba Places, Baba's Masters, and then the very end, Baba Lover Accounts, commentaries, and miscellaneous. I tried so hard to avoid any miscellaneous, but it can't be done. There's just stuff, that's where it fits. This is a really important part of the history of the archives.
These are all thanks to Jim that we have these bound volumes.
I think I read your mind. I was going to say, yeah, over the 40 years that I collected, I bound these. Complete Divyavani, complete Glow, complete Mara Message, that's a triumph. Complete Divyavani, I must have gone through 500 Divyavanis. When I worked in India, I helped sort at the archives in India. And then here, they just kept coming in by box loads, Divyavani. So, yeah, so years ago, I bound all them. Now, this is interesting. Because of a comment from the archives in India, David Hobson and I took the Mara Messages, which stood up before, and we laid them down in a box. And we did the same with the Mara Baba journals. Instead of standing up, laid them in a box. And that was just a brief comment from the Trust that they prefer putting these things in archival boxes. And of course, everything is archival. Okay. Jack Mormon said that this was the jewel in the crown of my collection. By the way, Jack Mormon was a mad keen collector collaborator for many, many years, and he knows about these things. So it's a first edition, 1929, Sobs and Throbs. And the way I got it was Dr. Barucha decided I really was doing this valuable work, and I don't know if I really believed it back then. I just had a greed and hunger for these books. But he took me through Bombay and Pune and introduced me to people and said, if you have anything extra or whatnot. And this old man gave me this first edition. I had it bound. Let's just open this cabinet here. David Bowling, who has been the inspiration and the power and the knowledge and everything behind this huge archival revival here. It really is actually a revival, all down to David Bowling. He's just incredible. So what he's doing is he's taking thousands of these documents and he's having them transcribed and or scanned by a posse of he's got a posse of about 6 people. I got 1, 2. Anyway, here's his stuff in here. God, he is so methodical. It's just all of these cardboard archival boxes with anything from a letter from Baba to Francis to an envelope. I don't know, just anything and everything. And some of the other treasures, like we'll continue to come across more and more and still yet more treasures in what I am anticipating and calling the Meher Baba baby boomer tsunami. I keep referring to this, and I really believe we are going to be buried, inundated with new material as the baby boomers fall off their porch. We've even got some older than baby boomers, this guy over here. So we got Ina Lemon collection. Those are photos that Ina Lemon gave me, which I didn't know there was any value to them. And then Gussie Bowling, she is Mrs. Photo Lady of the Baba universe, she found some that were really rare. I didn't know it. Yeah, and then what else we got? Baba photos, the Robert Rouse's family photo collection. Oh, and this is really a cool one. This is, well, I won't take it out, but it's photos of Baba lovers, like lots and lots of Baba lovers at various anniversaries and events. And we had a couple of ladies come in and identify who it was on the back of the photo. So what this means is that in 100 years, somebody will be looking through this and they'll see a little kid and they'll go, oh, there's my great-grandmother. So yeah, to have all the names of these Baba lovers. And then we got a whole pile of youth Sahavas photos. And when people see we have these, they go, what are they doing in there? Why don't you have them out? Well, I guess the answer is you can't have everything out. Here's a treasure. I bought this for about $100 because Jack Mormon told me to, because he bought one for $100. It's Time Magazine, 1932. Oh, I should have marked where Baba is. Anyway, there's a whole page. There he is. There he is. Religion, God on the Hudson. Pretty, yeah, my goodness. Oh, well, it's 2 columns. Yeah, so that's a pretty cool thing. The history of collecting this stuff. I started out as it was a lust, just plain and simple. Lust is where you want something and you want it. And I was like that with Baba books. The harder to get, the rarer. And Jack Mormon and I used to, compare back and forth. What did you get? Where did you get it? And so it was a collector lust mentality. And then Dr. Barucha came to Melbourne. He stayed at our house. And with him, he brought a box, about this big. And when I saw what was in that box, I sort of went, oh my God, now this is serious. And Baba, it's pretty much an inner message. You got to take care of this stuff now. You keep asking for it. Well, I gave it to you. Now you got to really do your best from here on, to preserve and protect this stuff. So that's when it changed from a lust collector to a burden on my shoulders, but it was a lot of fun doing it. So I carried on collecting anywhere and everywhere I could. Every time I heard of another Baba lover that lived in Melbourne, I would contact them and I'd say, you got any books? I mean, I just, begged from anybody I could. Clarice Adams, Ina Lemon, Ozzie and Betty Hall, a toenail from Ina that came from Pendu. That'll come here when we die. Pendu Ina toenail will be up in that box. Oh yeah, this is my passion now. This is, all of these cabinets was my passion for 40 years or whatever. And now my passion is this. Building a second collection that eventually will have as much as possible of the original collection, so that these 4 cabinets can become virtually untouchable. Somebody wants to research stuff and it's not in the bookstore, it's not in the library, and it's not here, then and only then can they access these cabinets with strict supervision. But that's another document that I just finished called Publications Manual. So yeah, the idea with the second collection is to have this remain virtually untouched. To the point, I think good archival practice is cleaning the floor, checking for bugs always. We got a bit of spray, surface spray you can do now and again. Oh, and these cute little things. These balls of, these cotton balls. Hang on. This is something I used to do in the actual cabinets themselves, right? As a bug deterrent, these oils. The oils are cedarwood, clove, and pennyroyal all together. and I would, do this every so many months. Then from the archives in India, once again, and other people also speculating that having the fumes in close contact with the paper could possibly not be a good idea. So now we leave them in little corners outside of the cabinets. Oh, and it makes a beautiful smell. And I mean, I can't imagine many bugs wanting to come into some place that smelled like this. Anyway, back to the second collection. It's really amazing how far we've gone. We've got a complete Divyavani. Like I said, thousands of Divyavanis. Complete collection of Divyavanis, complete collection of Awakeners. You can see they're much lesser quality, which is okay. The better stuff is in the archives. Glow, we've got most of the Glow. Mayor Gazette, we even have some Mayor Gazettes. Mayor Baba Journal. And, here's a section, Western Mail. Well, the Western Mail in the archives, I would say, would only be 2/3 again as big. So that's a pretty good start for the Western Mail. Here's Western Female, and so on. Now here's something. These are all the original discourses. Second copies of the original discourses. Look at how many there are. There were all these different printings for the 5 editions. And I got my first 5 edition original from Clarice Adams. And the funny thing was they smelled like cigarette smoke for approximately 10 years after she gave them to me. She was such a heavy smoker. So yeah, that many duplicates. And I was going to farm these out to the bookstore to sell. And Geoffrey Gunther, he was a wise man in this operation. He said, no, they don't take up that much room. And they are the original edition. Save them all. So I did. This is an interesting section here. It's called Miscellaneous Mentions. Okay? And you'll recognize Search and Secret India, Brunton, Enlightened Masters, like that. The Disciple and His Devil by Pascal Kaplan, and many more. The Who magazine and whatnot. Yeah, some of this is pretty rare, pretty fascinating stuff. There are some rare things in here, but mostly it's just birthday celebration, Adi's prayer, just little bits and pieces. Now here's an actual, this is more like a book. I'm not sure if this is also in the archives. You'd think it would be. See, it's thicker.
Yeah. It's a pretty fine line between pamphlet and booklet.
Absolutely, there is. So, well, there's about 5 of these, the life and work of Avatar Meher Baba and his expositions. So, yeah, this is just the A's, just beginning. There are a couple that are very, very rare. I just can't think of the titles right now.
You can see what an obsessive Jim is. Now, just to say a word about the rationale behind this obsessive quality in Jim was a great asset, in fact indispensable for creating the archive as it is. And why be so concerned about preserving things? Well, it's a large view of history, I suppose, where you can see how disastrous it has been to lose so much primary material from the avataric advents in the past, and how destructive mankind can be. So in the assumption that civilization is going to have some convulsions over the next 700 years, Jim has taken every possible precaution to make sure that this stuff is preserved with every precaution and safeguard, and that's going to continue, of course, over the next few years with planned new buildings and things that are built to withstand everything. So it's in very good and it's very necessary hands, I think.
Well, if you think I've been thorough, you ain't seen nothing yet. David Hobson, man, oh man, he puts me to shame. I mean, yeah, he's really, really obsessive. So, yeah, it's going to go well. You hit upon something I really, this is really important. Okay, my two dreams right now, fill this up as fast as possible. In fact, I've sort of gotten approval to kind of like, well, to not steal, not borrow, but procure some books from the library to fill in this second collection. And it's just a matter of how much money, would the trust be happy with that, et cetera, et cetera. But my second dream, I'll show you, Geoffrey touched on it. He's talking about this material directly from the God-man, directly from the Avatar. Well, here it is. Here it is, people, right here. Top shelf source. Here they are. Directly from Baba, and then it continues down here. Just up to there. Yep. Here and up here. I hope that we can do that those of us in all over the world that are trying to preserve and protect this material begin an open dialogue. Nashirwan, Rick Chapman, India, Myrtle Beach.
And in Australia too, the collection in
Sydney at Mayor
House. And also in Melbourne. Tony's.
Yeah. I don't think Tony might not have a lot of physical, I don't know. I don't know how big his collection, he's got a good size collection.
Actually, I made a list one day. He has a number of items there we don't have.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh God. We got to send somebody down to Melbourne. Send the Samoans down to Melbourne.
Yeah.
Yeah, anyway, that we could all collaborate and really open up, maybe make videos like this. But the main thing would be to exchange material. We need one Meher Baba journal, just one. And I'll bet you they have duplicates in India, possibly Myrtle Beach, who knows. Anyway, I love this room. One time I passed Bill LePage and Diana, when Trish and I, it probably took us about 200 hours in here, Trish and I. We took everything out, cleaned it, put it all back in, and I passed Bill and Diana, and they said, gosh, you are here a lot. You're doing wonderful work here on the archives. And And I said, I'm obsessed with that room. And I just walked on. Because that's what popped in my head, Yeah. It's a beautiful environment. It's really pure feeling. And
I think the other thing that Baba has done is that whilst providing Jim's initiative and enthusiasm to take control of the archives and to produce this, Baba provided the money at the right time.
Yeah.
So through bequeathing, we just couldn't have done this without that sort of donation that's made it all
God, I forgot
possible.
about the donation. Okay, yeah, it's kind of interesting how big poetry is. My God, everybody in the Drover's Dog is a Baba poet. Poetry, song and poetry, this whole section. And then Hafiz, I feel kind of ambivalent about having all that Hafiz, because earlier I said this is only Baba's 5 perfect masters. That's what this archives will contain. But there's Hafiz. I'm not going to throw him away. Being Baba's favorite poet. Oh yeah, all the Lord Mayors, both the Indian and the other version.
And you got a space there in the Hafiz section for Paul Smith to fill later.
Oh God. Yeah, they're mostly Paul Smith books. Oh well, I don't know. Maybe it's too late to take them out. I always ask Geoffrey before I do something like that. Yeah, the database, I got distracted. There are other entries like the small section. I think this is so handy that you have the small section so that the small is not smushed within the large. The Eastern male, run all the way through here and then down through here with the little tags, alphabetical. Also in the database there's a red S for if it's signed, and we put in another column R for rare. But the problem is what was rare when I was collecting 30, 40, 45 years ago now could be extremely rare. And what was common 30, 40 years ago could be rare. It's hard for me to know because I haven't sort of kept in touch with other archivists as much as I'd like to. Now, earlier I talked about some of the Baba lovers in Melbourne who gave me books. And I forgot Beryl Giddens, Dr. Dennis O'Brien, and the book burning of Elsie Smart's Baba book collection. I contacted Elsie Smart. She said, yeah, come over at such a time. I'm pretty sure she set this up so her husband wouldn't be there. And she started showing me what I could have and kind of making, well, you can have that and you can have that. And then finally she said, just take it all. He'll just burn it. He had already burned all of her Baba things that he could find. So, you archivists out there, grab it while you can. This is Mayor Baba's house. He came to Australia in 1958, and his presence remains. Let's go look in his room, and then we'll have the archival tour of the relics and artifacts. Now we're approaching Mrs. Relics and Artifacts. She has done so much work over the years. This is Jeanette, Issacs-Young, and she's one of the best Baba huggers in the whole world. Okay, take it away.
Embarrass me, Jim. So Baba's room is part of the archive story here at Avatar's Abode. The room was built with 700 years in mind. So Australian turpentines, the timber, and every panel was numbered, with Francis believing that that way the room could be relocated into a building more fitting for the Avatar if and when the opportunity arose in the future. And because when people were working here, this was really quite a remote country area, they didn't have access to a lot of materials. So we find that Baba's bed itself is made from the same timber in the walls. The chairs were made of the same timber. It's actually what they call VJ here in Australia, that is designed to fit together, but they took the edges off and used the same timber for the chair that Baba was carried in across to the meeting hall. They needed a table for Baba. It was made from the same wood, but they didn't have either the timber or the time to make legs, so they used pineapple crates. This property was originally a pineapple farm prior to purchase by Francis Brabazon for Mayor Baba's visit. So we have a pineapple crate table for the Avatar. So when, as recently as the 1988 anniversary of Baba's visit, Baba's things that were in use during his visit were just laid out on the bed, and there was that proximity. People could actually see and touch everything. But in the time since then, we've been making decisions based on conservation and preservation. So some things have been taken off the bed and stored elsewhere. Some are now actually taken from public view. There have been decisions based on a balance of keeping access. We still have original sandals on the bed. The pillows that Baba slept on and used to lean against on the divan are original. The mattress underneath the frame is original, and there's one blanket and one sheet stored there beyond access that are part of the original setup. And then other things have been taken to the archive room, so we'll go and have a look in there. In the almost 30 years I've been around, there have been lots of changes in what are considered to be the best practice in archiving, and we have a couple of Baba's sadras in which there's significant foxing. So we've been quite slow to respond to some things, and in the example of sadras, it was good we didn't do what we were advised to do 20 years ago, because that is now different than the advice we're getting now about what to do with sadras. So Carolyn's just putting some Tyvek into the folds of the sadra so we can remount it on a support board for display. The sadra comes out of this cabinet here, which sat for a long time in Baba's room and then in the main part of Baba's house before it was brought into this purpose-built, air-conditioned, climate-controlled room. We still have a coat of Baba's. It's actually silk, so it's stronger than some similar coats that were cotton, and it's still hanging, so we're waiting now for a specially constructed display cabinet where it can be housed better for long-term storage. Within this cabinet we've got some what we call relics. We've got some artefacts that were used by Baba and associated with him and his visit. Over here, a brooch made by the women Migdoll. It's a representation of a winged heart, and it's made from thread and from Baba's hair, and some of his fingernails are stuck onto that brooch. So it's a very delicate and very treasured piece. One of these alphabet boards, and the alphabet boards were used, of course, by Baba during his 44 years of silence, was understood to be the one that was given by Baba to Francis when Francis presented him with his copy of Stay with God. Baba was very happy to receive the book finally, and it was written at Baba's explicit instruction. And Baba gave Francis that alphabet board, and he brought it back to Australia. There's a little uncertainty about which of those, but it's pretty clear it's the top one. We have here some combings from Baba's hair laid out on the pillow case that he slept on when he was here on Avatar's Abode. And here in this cabinet, there's some items that have been gifted to Avatar's Abode from Mehrabad and Mahrazad. We have a piece of stone from the crypt, from the Samadhi, the tomb shrine where Baba's remains are. We have some water from the ice that was laid around Baba's body as it lay on display for 7 days in the tomb. Some Dooni ash. There's a very unobtrusive looking piece of pink cloth at the back, which is possibly one of the most special things we have here. It's part of a cloth that was laid across Baba's body and covered with rose petals during his time in the Samadhi. There's some of the rubble from Baba's bedroom at Mahrazad that was given when that was being renovated and upgraded during the last 20 years. Signed books, more hair combings, cards that were used by Baba, drafts that were used by Baba, towels used during his visit here, and a cup, blankets that were used during his visit. And there's some beautiful artefacts here that are part of Bill and Diana Page's collection. Various items given by Bill, either by Baba or by Money and Mayra over the years. Armrests that were used in the car that Bill LePage drove for Baba in 1956 and 58 during his Sydney visits. Some socks that Bill lent to Baba and then Baba gave back to Bill to keep his feet warm at Mayer House. And back in the other half of this cabinet we have the sort of things that were handled by Baba on the one side, and on the other side with his sandals and a cast of his feet is some soap and towels that were used in a sheet, and a stone that was given when the women Migdoll went walking. Baba would often pick up a piece of stone, and this particular piece of stone was picked up and given by Baba to Mayra to hold for Avatar's Abode. So again, it's one of those items that doesn't look particularly spectacular, but when I heard the story about that stone, I thought, well, that's a very special gift. When this cabinet was being arranged, one pillow was put in here that Baba used, and there's another pillow stored down in the more secure archives further away, and as I mentioned earlier, one still on the bed there in Baba's room. And people have given garlands that were worn and used by Meher Baba. Part of the archive work that's been done is introducing the humidity and temperature reading and controlling. So when we replace the Sadra back into this cabinet, we'll also replace the humidity and temperature reading device. And I can't think how to close except to say how blessed we really are to have these extraordinary treasures that just remind us of how close we've had the privilege of being to God-man's walking this particular piece of his glorious earth on this Advent.